What is going on, everybody? Taylor here, and today I'm going to be talking about the new Baz Luhrmann film Elvis, which I just got home from seeing. I have been very, very excited about this movie for weeks and weeks and weeks now. I finally got to see it. I have so many thoughts. I was going to try and arrange this to film it so that you can see the poster that's hanging just there. But logistically, that's a bit of a nightmare, so I'll just insert a video to show you. But I already have the movie theater, straight from the theater poster, framed and on my wall. And guys, I feel like the only way to really start this would be to say I'm a huge Baz Luhrmann fan. I really enjoy his style of filmmaking. And I think that taking on the life and the story of Elvis Presley is perfectly suited for the style that Baz uses in his films. I think that it was just such a match made in the cosmos. Like the stars just aligned and it just had to happen. But the standout of this movie and the reason that it works as well as it does, and the reason that I was an emotional wreck by the end of it, is the absolute star-making performance that we get from Austin Butler in this film as Elvis. What he manages to achieve is absolutely spectacular. It's stunning and emotionally sincere, and it never feels like an impersonation. And it's so grounded in this larger-than-life Baz film. You really feel like you're getting to see this man that so many people, while he was alive, only really got to see, the moments when he was on stage or when he was in press conferences or when he was in interviews. This movie feels like it is intimate, even though it does have those big, flashy, incredibly shot, concert performance moments. But I really just felt like anytime that Austin Butler was on screen, I felt like I was spending time with Elvis, and I was never distracted by consciously thinking, oh, but this is a movie. He's just really enchanting in this performance, and you can tell how much of his soul he just poured into doing everything he possibly could to make you feel like you weren't watching an impression. It was really remarkable, and I'm going to be very, very upset if the Academy Awards roll around and he doesn't have a nomination on lock. I'll be pretty furious, to be honest, because no matter what your opinions on Baz Luhrmann are, and how you feel about the film, I don't know how you can walk out of the theater after seeing this and not just be blown away by what he was able to do. I'm really, really excited. I hope that this is a launching pad for his career, that he's been putting in the work for, over 10 years at this point. Probably closer to like 20 years, honestly. And that he really gets to be the absolute movie star that he should be after putting on a performance like this. It definitely, to me, felt like a typical Baz movie in terms of pacing, in terms of style, in terms of editing, in terms of how the music was incorporated, which is something that I love. Like I said, I'm a big fan of his work generally. And I really think that even though it's a bit jumps around a bit, the pacing is a bit all over the place, I do think it's a story that's easy to follow. I think it's a story that covers a lot of Elvis's life and a lot of things that people probably didn't know before that they're going to find interesting, and is really going to give them a broader picture of who he was as, like I said earlier, a man outside of, the icon and the legend that you saw on stage and on screen. And yeah, it was just, there were so many emotional moments that really paid off, and to me at least really packed the punch that they were supposed to because of the performances. As someone who didn't really grow up around a lot of Elvis, obviously knew who he was, because I don't think there's a person that you could go up to and be like, hey, do you know who Elvis is? And they're like, who? I don't think that's a real thing. Definitely when I was a kid, I don't think that was a thing. And, but as someone who has never really been invested in Elvis and his story, this movie just wrecked me. As the movie was ending and the credits were about to roll, I was just sitting there in tears. Because this movie doesn't paint Elvis as someone who's perfect. It doesn't paint him as a terrible person, but it shows you, his moments of anger, and it shows you his confusion and his sadness and his loneliness. And I really appreciate that even though there were these big, spectacular, grandiose performance pieces, which were wonderful, we also get these really grounded moments to just kind of sit with the character and take a breath, take a moment before you step into another scene where you get swept up by the atmosphere of the performances that were in this film, because they were shot really well. And I really think that because Austin spent so much time, studying movement and dancing and singing, and really immersed himself into all of that kind of training, when you get to these moments on stage, it doesn't feel like an actor putting on a performance. It doesn't feel like something that it feels like you're watching concert footage. And it just kind of blew me away, honestly. It's a bit hard for me to kind of articulate everything that I'm feeling. It's a movie that really made me feel like I was witnessing Elvis coming into his career. Like, I felt like it was me witnessing him being discovered, and the things that he was doing to audiences, and it made me feel those things. Like, I sat there and was just like smiling like an idiot, or blushing, or whatever it was, because Austin's performance was just, it just draws you in, and there's nothing you can do about it, which is spectacular. And really, this movie does not work at all if you don't have an actor who can do that, who can really take on this larger than life icon that is arguably one of the most recognizable music figures history has ever seen, at least modern musicians. Finding someone who's able to step into that role and not only breathe real, genuine, charismatic soulful life into it, but also to be able to hone in on the dancing and the movements and the speech accents and the singing, and who can play the guitar and who can play the piano, and really just is able to transport you to where you're feeling like you can forget that you're watching a movie, because it's easy to do, because he makes it easy to do. It's just spectacular. Like it like makes me emotional just like talking about it, like sitting here thinking about it. And that's a really strange sensation for me to have. Like, it's a weird experience to be going through right now as someone who's never emotionally attached to Elvis in any way. And I think that's something that just a brilliant, transcendent performance can do. And that's part of the reason why I love movies and I love music so much, is it has the power to do that. And I'm definitely really excited to see this movie at least a handful of more times in theaters, because it's Baz. You've got to see it on the big screen. Visually, he's such a master. And yeah, I'm kind of floored, to be honest. Like, I had high hopes for the film because of the interviews that I listened to, and because it's Baz. I really went in with pretty high expectations and high hopes, and I'm just still kind of sitting here like shocked by what we actually got. Because yeah, it completely blew me away. And I don't even really know if this review is making sense at this point. I might just be rambling like about nothing. That could totally be what's happening right now. But this is just kind of like my initial thoughts, and as I'm working through processing it, and just kind of letting it sit with me and enjoy the fact that I got to have this emotional journey with the film. And I'm really thankful for that. It's something that I think we can take it for granted a lot of the time, but when something like this happens, where you get, in my opinion, the perfect actor in the perfect role with the perfect director at the perfect time, and you just get this moment that's captured on film forever. And we get to have that, and we get to keep that. It's just awesome. It's so awesome. So with that being said, just a couple of final thoughts. Tom Hanks as the Colonel was not as big of a distraction as I thought maybe he possibly could have been. There's been a lot of talk, just in the lead up to the film, of people being unsure of the accent that he was choosing to use and of all the prosthetics and everything. But I think it fits really well into the style that Baz is using to tell the story, and it really works when you realize that the framing of the story is through the perspective of the Colonel. That's how we're being told this story as the audience, and we're kind of having to just accept what we're getting from this pretty unreliable narrator, I would say. But I thought that he was really good in terms of servicing the role that he was given. Wasn't a distraction for me at all. I thought it worked for the context of the film. The costume design and the production design, the sets, everything was just completely incredible, which is unsurprising. But the costume design in particular was fantastic, and it just made me so happy. Yeah, like A plus 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 for all of that. The use of music, absolutely banging as always. Baz knows what he's doing there, with the mix of the modern and the old school, and really just having it be a character that really helps to shape the direction of the film and lead you to how you should feel, but not only leading you to where it wants you to go, but doing it with the old school music and the modern music, in that kind of storytelling that Baz likes to do. So if you're a fan of that, there's that to look forward to, which again I thought was handled really well. Olivia de Jong was really good. She doesn't have a huge part in this movie, I would say. I would definitely say the story is more about the relationship between Elvis and Tom Parker. Not so much his story with Priscilla, but she puts in a good performance. They're very cute together. I feel like people are gonna be probably not chill about it, to be honest, because it doesn't really address the controversy of their whole relationship and how they got together and the age difference and everything like that. But it's not what the movie was about, so I wasn't really bothered by that, but I can see people choosing to not be super chill about that, so that's going to be fun. I really liked how they framed his upbringing and showed that so much of his influence when it came to his style, when it came to the music he liked to listen to, the music he liked to sing, what was really close to his heart and what really moved him was the Black community that he grew up in. And I really love how much of the forefront that was, especially at the beginning of the film where we're seeing a lot of the younger Elvis. I thought that was really, really cool. And again, we'll just cap it off by saying Austin Butler is a legend. He is a absolute star here. And the emotional scenes that he has, particularly when it comes to his mother, they absolutely wrecked and destroyed me, especially knowing what he went through with his own mother and how eerily close of a tie he has with Elvis when it comes to that. Those scenes probably absolutely destroyed him to have to film those. So I thought it was really wonderful, actually, how many times we get to see Elvis be vulnerable and we get to see him be emotional. And not just through anger. We get to see him devastated. We get to see him sobbing, basically, a couple of different times. And I know that it's slowly getting better when it comes to that kind of stuff in film, but getting to see these legendary, giant, just larger than life characters, but men in particular, getting to see them on screen being vulnerable and really like outwardly experiencing emotions is something that is really striking to me, just because I feel like a lot of the time when it comes to showing men outwardly having emotions, it's more through like anger or like violence, which there is anger in this film, definitely, but those vulnerable moments of just absolutely being wrecked. I really love that we got to see those moments. And as with everything else in this film, Austin just 100% kills it. And I was just, like sobbing right along with him. But yeah, I'm probably going to sit down at some point and do like a podcast episode or something on this movie, because I could just talk and talk and talk and talk about it. But I think we're probably going to leave it there for now. And I hope that everyone goes out and sees this film on the big screen if you have the chance to, because it's definitely one that you want to see on the big screen for sure. And I hope that people love it. And if they don't, I hope that people at the very least fall in love with him and the performance, because it's really just astonishing. it really, it's Austin Butler's world. It's Austin Butler's moment, and we're just along for the ride, which is very, very exciting. But if you guys have seen the film, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't, please let me know if you're planning on seeing the film. If you're looking forward to it, I'd love to talk to you guys about it. As always, all my links for social media and everything else are down in the description if you want to find me there. Thank you guys so, so much for all of your continued support, and I will see you next time.